Telling our stories is the connective tissue of the collective human experience. The Just Keep Talking podcast delves into the lives and stories of artists. What is the impact of mental health on creativity? What does it mean to be a creative individual? Someone who feels deeply, experiences joy and pain intensely, and navigates the challenges of life through the creative process. With each story shared, we explore the authentic experience of our basic need to be seen, to be heard, and to belong. We're really not so different from one another, nor are we alone. Together, we can inspire, encourage, and enlighten each other to find the true joy and fulfillment that is within ourselves. When we just keep talking, we create the space for gratitude, self-acceptance, and grace in everyday life. In a world filled with divisiveness, fostering inclusivity and connection is a powerful way to make a positive impact. The Just Keep Talking podcast with me, Brother Love, because your story matters. Welcome to Nashville Sunday night, live from 3rd and Lindsley. Tonight's concert is being broadcast on 100.1 FM here in Nashville and around the world at lightning100.com and volume.com. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brother Love. How is everybody feeling? That is right. This is a live music experience. Our headliner tonight is Aaron Lee Tasjan and friends. This cat is an accomplished guitar player. He's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's a producer. Everything this man touches shines bright with the love of 1,000 beating hearts. He, you, Aaron Lee, are one of the kindest, most generous, and authentic artists any of us will ever experience in sound and in sight and in feel. His latest album, Stellar Evolution, celebrates love and inclusivity, reflecting the vibrant community that is home right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Lee Tasjan. Thanks so much for tuning into the Just Keep Talking podcast with me, Brother Love. As you just heard, I was hosting Nashville Sunday Night on Lightning 100 here in Nashville, Tennessee, brought to you by volume.com and lightning100.com. Check out the full concert of Aaron Lee Tasjan and friends on volume.com/lightning100. Aaron Lee Tasjan is the guest today. We actually recorded this episode in August of 2023. Aaron Lee Tasjan is such a force of nature. He's an incredible guitar player. He's an incredible singer, songwriter, and producer. And he's just a wonderful person within our community right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now we'll get to my interview with Aaron Lee Tasjan. I am your host, Brother Love. I am here today with Aaron Lee Tasjan.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Tasjan. Do I pronounce that correctly?
You're nailing it.
Because every time I say your name, I am afraid to say your name. I literally, for years, I'm like, yeah, Aaron Lee Tasjan. Like, what? I'm like, Aaron Lee, right? I figure, there's not a lot of Aaron Lees in town.
It's part of the branding. Instill fear.
Well, that's very true. But I don't know why. Like a Tasjan, like my wife's family, her mother's maiden name is Vada, but it's like Vadja or Vajda.
That's beautiful.
I should know.
Wow.
So the J's make me nervous. Tasjan. And I love your branding because Tasjan. So great. You're a singer, a songwriter, a guitar player, a wonderful human being, and thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We were scheduled to do this, and you're a touring musician.
Yes.
a few days ago, and you said, hey, man, I'm at the airport. I'm out of here, man. You ran me out of town, man. That's right. Tasjan out. So where'd you go?
I went to Burlington, Wisconsin. Some friends who run a very cool little festival there called the Tall Tales Festival, which is funded by the city and some wonderful sponsors. Kind of got a last-minute notification that they really needed to get a festival together or they were possibly in danger of losing their funding from the city. And I was telling you earlier, I grew up in a small town like Burlington, Wisconsin in Ohio, and I know what a big deal it is when great music and great art comes to town. And so I was happy to be able to help them out, and we had a wonderful time.
You say there's all kinds there. Families, friends, kids.
Yeah, a lot of dancing in the street.
Right on.
All we were missing was Mick and David.
Yeah, well, that's right. because the budget wasn't as such. But isn't that crazy how that happens with budgets?
Yeah.
Like for artists, for us, it's insane.
Yeah.
Because all we try to do is get paid for what we do.
Yes.
Honestly, some people want more. Some people take less. We just want to just compensate it for doing what we love.
Yeah.
And yet there's money that just gets thrown away almost.
Oh, yeah.
Like if they don't have this festival, if you don't spend this money, they're begging, spend this money. How about we save this money since we couldn't make the thing happen? And next year we'll have the money towards it.
Absolutely.
No. If you don't
Timelines.
spend it this year, it's not coming next year.
Arbitrary timelines.
How stupid is that? I mean, that's like ridiculous. It's basically saying like, look, if I go to the supermarket, right, and I don't spend $100, well, that's it. Just throw it away. Well, I have the 100 in my pocket. I'll use it at the store next week, and I'll have $200.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at all those groceries. Nope, not for you. Nope. That's why I don't understand anything in life. But you mentioned before, there was a kid that came up to you.
Yeah, right after the show, man. I finished, and he was probably 11, 12 years old. He tipped me $1. I think it was his own dollar that he gave. And he said he wanted to know how to start writing songs. That's it for me, you know, because besides just being able to have a life playing music and be able to live and exist doing what I love and breathe every day, my real goal is to write one song that inspires one kid who'll come along and just blow everything I've ever done out of the water so that it continues. That's what I'd love to see, is this go on forever.
How would you know when that happens? Do you think you could tell? Because you have a style, a very distinctive style.
Yeah. Well, thank you. One of the things that I like to remind myself is you don't always get to know the impact that you've had. And the value that you place on the work is what creates the chance that you'll have that kind of impact. So I just try to fall in love with the work every day.
That's great. You're like Mean Joe Green. Remember the commercial? Hey, kid, catch. You throw your guitar, smashes this kid right in the head. You get sued. Well, the kid got rich. Hey, how'd you become so successful? Well, I started with a great bunch of seed money. This guy, Aaron Lee Tasjan, he threw a guitar right at my head.
Funded my whole album.
Yeah, it was great. That's fantastic. Those things that happen really do make such a difference, because you realize that, like, I hate to say it's we make a difference. That just sounds ridiculous. You know, because I've been around enough artists who are like, oh, I make such a difference. I'm here now. Don't you feel different? You know, like, what the hell are you? Oh, please. You just sang a song. Yeah, you got a pretty voice. Don't get too crazy. My band was playing a festival at Roscaloosa in Florida, and this kid came up afterwards. Somebody said, hey, Larry, can you sign an autograph? And I'm like, of course I could sign an autograph. And this kid came up to me, and I just started chatting with him. And he said, I wasn't going to come out tonight. I remembered seeing him dancing.
Love it.
Dancing, right? And he danced like with complete freedom. Like it was an exorcism. It really felt like that, you know? And when we were younger, I would have said, he danced like a crazy person. Like your mother would say that. My mother, you're like a crazy person. But that was meant with love, you know what I mean? Meaning like you're just wild. You're not of thought. You're not of sound mind. You're out of your mind. But that can be a really good thing.
Oh, yeah.
So this kid, he was like, I saw you dancing. I was like, and thanks for that. Well, you look like you had fun. And he just got serious. He said, I wasn't going to come out tonight. I got really bad news today. I was going to hurt myself.
Oh, man.
And I said, wow, well, I'm really happy you didn't.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming here. Thanks for being brave enough to get out of the house and to come where there's a lot of people.
Wow.
It's a festival.
Yeah.
It's not a bar. He's a kid, but still, it's not a place you're just going to go sit in the corner and be invisible.
Right.
He wasn't invisible. He was dancing like he was ripping his clothes, like he was ripping his old skin off.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And he just said, I'm so happy right now. And I almost like started crying. And he said it louder. He said, I'm so happy. And then he shook my hand, gave me a hug. He walked away. I heard him all the way up the hill. I'm so happy. And I'm like, oh my God, he's really happy. I'm like, wow, he's really, really feeling no past, no future. He's feeling right now.
The moment. Yeah.
The moment.
Oh, I love it.
Wow, that was instant. We're all in this moment together.
Yeah.
And how beautiful. How beautiful. Just incredible.
Powerful.
You know?
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Love it.
I love your music. I adore your music. I remember the day that I dug into your last record, Tasjan. Was that self-released or you were on a label with that?
New West put that record out.
New West put that record out. And I remember I was at the gym, and my wife, Sarah, takes videos of me at the gym. I guess it's the endorphins and all that. I groove and I move, and people like hug me at the gym that don't know me. First of all, don't hug people at the gym, okay? Hey, number one, don't hug strangers, okay? Just don't do it, all right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I love you, but just go on your way. And at the gym, people say, hey, man, you inspire me. They like fist bump me like they know me. I'm like, why? Because I'm listening to either one of three things. I say, Sarah, if you want to put a TikTok out of what I'm doing, I'm either A, listening to classic rock, Van Halen, AC/DC, B, funk, Sly and the Family Stone, or C, myself.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Because I'm listening to like mixes. I'm listening to work tapes. I'm trying to get inspired for the next things, you know, all that. When I got to dig into your album, that was a day on the treadmill. That was a great day.
Man, I'm honored.
Your record is just, it's so cool. You have zero pretense. You have zero pretense on this record.
Well, you know, I think like a lot of musicians, I got my start in music however I could. So initially, I always had this idea of wanting to be a songwriter and to make my own records and release them. But it took me a really long time before I felt like I even had anything that was worth showing to somebody. My career really started more as a guitar player, sideman person while I was living in New York City. Oh, and of course, I had Semi-Precious Weapons, in which I co-wrote the songs, but Justin Tranter was our frontman du jour, and you couldn't have had a better person for the job. Semi-Precious Weapons was the band.
Right. And what years?
That would have been like not long after I moved to New York City, so we started that band, I think it was 2004 or 2005.
That's correct, by the way. Right.
Okay. Yes. Nailing it. And so I learned a lot from him. He was really the first person I knew who had been comfortable enough with who he was to be out, you know, when he was still a teenager. He really inspired me in that way of, if you're really being yourself, you don't need to pretend to do anything. But the bravery that it takes to do that is, for me, that it took a long time to build that up. I felt like that last record felt like a particularly kind of breakthrough moment in my own personal life in that way.
That we're talking about.
Yeah, the Tasjan record. There was a lot of firsts on that record. First times of talking about certain things about who I was and things that I believed in that were always a part of my process in terms of my creativity. But I don't know that I just flat out said things like that previously. Part of the goal was to try to shake away any pretense that may have been there previously and just stand in the center of who I feel like I am and who I was in that moment at that time.
Were any of the songs written like a long time ago that you came back to? Or was it all sort of like a new chapter for you?
Yeah, I have done that before. I'm sure just like you, I have tons of notebooks, you know, full of stuff, and I keep them all because you just never know.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the process of writing. There are plenty of times where I don't even realize what I'm writing about until later on. And so some of those things almost need to like sit in those notebooks and marinate until they're ready to come out, you know, when I understand myself a little more. Pretty much every song on that record was a new current song that I wrote sort of in that moment.
You're so approachable in that record. I put the record on, I listen up all night, Feminine Walk.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, wow, you know what? There's a guy out there that's I can relate to. I felt like, wow, I'm not alone in this world.
Ah, yes.
That's really, really important. You're not alone. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to just sort of create some art that is just an expression of yourself, very honestly, that then translates to me. I can just digest this so easily because I get it. You're really, really simply so simple. That's the thing, too. You son of a bitch. Well, and what I mean by that is that songs that sound so simple flows by me and then through me, and then I listen again. I'm like, those are great choices chordally or production wise, or the lyrics like, broke up with my boyfriend to go out with my girlfriend because love is like that. He's just repeating love, and I'm like, that's so ingenious because love is like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's more work to be simple.
Yeah, that's how it always felt to me. It felt harder to write something simple that I could really stand behind. Yet, that was really why I fell in love with music to begin with, is because I think the songs that I was listening to when I was really falling in love with music, they were simple enough yet also creative enough and singular enough that I could see myself in them. And the power of that, of feeling seen within the context of a song, it's just totally saved my life.
We spent a lifetime putting the costumes on.
Yeah.
We spent a lifetime armoring up, right? And I'm going to show you how smart I am. Look at this song. Big words I use, and they rhyme, right? Nothing rhymes with orange. I've got a word that rhymes with orange. Ha, ha, ha! You know?
Totally.
And then you realize that when you break yourself down, whether you break yourself down or are broken down, two different things, but either way, and you get to this sort of core, this silent, quiet place, it's all very simple.
Very simple.
And you go, son of a bitch, it's been there the whole time.
Right, yeah.
You seem to me to be somebody that is always working on getting to yourself, getting to some of the truth.
Yeah.
This was a cathartic record. Were you in a hard time and came out? Is this sort of a culmination of ups and downs? Because sometimes, like, I can say that last year I had basically a year of holding my head in my hands, and my wife was on tour a lot, so she didn't know if I was sitting at home and crying, watching whatever it was that makes me cry, which is anything, by the way. I watched Star Trek 2 at the con a couple of weeks ago. Nobody was home. You know, in the end, when Spock dies, sorry to spoil it, but, you know, when Spock dies, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. I'm bawling, man. Put on the 86 Mets. I'm crying. You know what I mean? Anything makes me cry. But the sadness of change in my life and loss in my life, and I'm a middle-aged man, and I don't have enough money, and all the things.
Yeah.
This show came out of a culmination of that. I was in a deeper pit than normal. The ebb and flow of life has always been that way. Depression runs in my family, and I just wasn't able to pick myself up by my bootstraps. I quit drinking, which saved me for that. But thank you. For this record, you really shared a lot of yourself. Were you in a dark place and came to the light, or is it something that's just a normal flow of an artist's life?
Yeah, I think, I was seeing firsthand, like a lot of people, the other side of the country we live in, a little bit of the underbelly of what existed in America. That for a certain generation of folks, I've had this discussion with a few people. I'm about to be 39 years old. When I was in school, I sort of remember a lot of these issues sort of being taught or discussed in a way as though almost like they had been dealt with. Well, we had racism in the 60s, and it was very bad, and Martin Luther King had a parade, and unfortunately he died as a result, but now America's a less racist place or whatever.
That's what they taught you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I remember feeling like I was taken away from that. And then when I was in high school, Dave Chappelle became a big star.
Yeah.
I was relating to him in terms of some of his material. It felt like it was sort of making fun of the idea of being a racist. Like, this is an outdated thing. And this was my own ignorance and privilege speaking as a teenage kid or whatever. I really didn't understand. And I had plenty of friends who were Black, who were Asian, who were Indian, who were Latino.
But you didn't buy the I Have Black Friends t-shirt that the Gap was selling.
No. Heavens no. I don't think I really understood what they were facing a lot in life. I wish that I could have understood that more from a younger age. I think that would have been a really great lesson. I still learned the lesson throughout my life, but it took me time to understand all of that. As I was growing up in that environment, there were things that I saw and that I encountered that took me years to be able to even completely grasp what I was seeing and feeling.
Seeing on TV or seeing it like firsthand?
In 1999, when I was a freshman in high school, there was a Ku Klux Klan parade in Columbus, Ohio.
Look at that.
I knew I grew up in a house where my dad was a jazz musician as a young man, and he grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. He had a young saxophone player by the name of Ernie Watts playing in his band, and Ernie, of course, went on to be quite a prominent jazz saxophone player.
Yeah.
My dad would tell me stories like, we went to play a dance at the DuPont Country Club, and they didn't want to let Ernie in. And my dad was like, either he plays or you have no band tonight. So
Sinatra did the same thing?
Right. Yeah. I was always taught to think that way, to value the differences in people and see that as a strength. So when I was making this record or writing songs for this last record, I was seeing some of the underbelly of America that I still didn't quite understand how many people felt compelled to share their sort of hatred of this group of people or that group of people or whatever. And, you know, I happened to be a queer man. And I just thought we can't allow this to continue to bubble up without, as an artist, creating a piece of art that helps to push back against that narrative. It became really important for me to say, this is who I am and this is what I have to say. And I think this can inspire people more than this sort of fear-based mentality that one must inhabit in order to express hate in that way.
Yeah. I think part of it is like, oh, that's out there.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
somewhere else.
Sure.
And I think during the last bunch of years, it became frightening, the division, the divisiveness, the hatred. When I see now as a New Yorker, born and raised in New York City, Queens is a melting pot.
Yes.
New York is a melting pot, as you know. When I see stories, swastikas in Brooklyn, in New York City.
Oh, my God.
I used to think, wow, when these old fuckers die off,
Right.
when these old coots
Yeah.
die off, and I
Yeah.
don't mean that like getting killed, I mean they're gonna die. And then the next generation is gonna come and things are gonna get a little better.
Sure. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
right.
it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Because you're taught this generationally. How is it now, 2023? We are reading about swastikas, hate in a city that of over 8 million people.
Yeah.
You hear stories of people talking about, like George Carlin would speak lovingly about growing up in Manhattan, where my father grew up.
Yeah.
This neighborhood was where the Irish, these 5 blocks. And then 5 blocks away was the Italians. And then 5 blocks away were Puerto Ricans. It was, everybody was there. He goes, but it was our neighborhood. And we all got along with each other because you know why? We had no choice. We had to. And so we were all thrown together. And yet we still have all this hatred.
Yeah.
And it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. I was watching because I was in a real pissed off mood last night. I like spiraled out of my mind, right? Things weren't flowing.
Sure.
Nothing was flowing.
Yeah.
So what do? I eat a bunch of food and I watch Hitler. I watch World War II. I figure, I do. My wife thinks I'm out of my mind. I watch anything World War II.
I love it.
It's like, I know how it ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, Hitler, a career. I was like, ooh, maybe they'll teach me something. So I'm
Yeah.
watching, and I know this, but he starts the kids out early. You start the kids out early.
Yes.
And that's the thing. These old coots don't die off. And then the young generation comes in and go, well, you know what? We're going to do something about this climate. We're going to do something about racism. No, they just come up. They're younger. They have more energy to hate.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt frightened for yourself, for your future?
I remember very well when the band Semi-Precious Weapons was happening. Justin and I shared a loft in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. This was 2004, 5, 6, 7. At the time, that neighborhood was a little different than it is now. I remember one night, Justin always looked incredible every single day. Decked out, full beat face, incredible hair, fantastic boots that came up past the thigh with a high heel on them.
Yeah.
And
It wasn't a
just-
costume for him. That was who
No.
he was,
Yeah, exactly.
which is a big distinction.
big distinction.
You know?
I was decked out too, but I was trying to find who I was, you know.
Hmm.
He knew. And so that was inspiring. But there were times where people would just see us and just have a physical
Yeah.
reaction immediately. I remember being chased down the street. I remember a guy chasing us in his car. We were in a car as well, but the guy was like going backwards down the street after us at like, it must have been 50 or 60 miles an hour, you know, and this is just a little neighborhood in Greenpoint.
He's still going backwards, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's poetry in real life right there, literally going backwards. We went to England for some shows one time that went really well. Walking around in England was not easy either. I remember a security guard at a HMV record store. We were browsing, looking at records, came up and just asked us to leave. No explanation, you know. You guys are
Wow.
weird. Get out of here,
Yeah.
basically. I was 22, 23 years old when that was sort of happening. And so I got this impression that it was dangerous sometimes to
Right.
be who you are. And now I'll even say at some of my shows, because of where things are in the country currently, I'll even say sometimes it's not even legal to be who you are now in this country in some places. So all those things were very much at the forefront of my thinking when I was creating the last record. And I really wanted to, as I said, just create a piece of art that would push back on the narrative that it was suddenly acceptable to say openly that you hated somebody.
Where are you at now with material? You writing or?
Yeah, really excited. I just finished a record. Now I have to figure out what it's called. That's always the challenge, but it's going to come out in April on a very cool label that I'm super excited to work with called Blue Elon Records.
Nice. Where are they out of?
They're out of Los Angeles. I was listening to some mixes from the record and kind of like what you were saying at the gym. I'm never embarrassed to say that I listened to myself. I mean, I know Prince did because he felt like no one else was making the music he wanted to hear.
Yeah.
He was doing it.
Right.
So he wanted to listen to himself. I love that. And I was just tweeting, you know, I said, oh man, I'm really excited about my new mixes. And the next thing I knew, they DM'd me and said, hey, we want to hear this record that you're
really
working on. You know, we're interested in listening to it. And that's how it happened.
That's so cool. Did you write all the material yourself? Do you co-write? I know, because we met in person, like for real, at a co-write.
That's right.
What an uncomfortable, weird day that was. It was for me. Let me just say, every time I'm in a co-write, I pray to God it gets canceled. My anxiety goes through the roof. I mean, like, please let them cancel. Please. My wife's like, what happened? It got canceled. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, it's great. Let's go have lunch. My anxiety is through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you calm down, and I learned to just go with it, and co-written a lot of cool songs that have been cut, recorded, my own band and other cats. It was you and I, Alex from Them Vibes, my band, and Maggie Rose. We were writing together. And I remember you were saying like, I'm not much of a co-writer or something. I felt like we were just forcing something on you. I don't know. I just want to apologize. No. I felt like, man, this guy, he thinks we're a bunch of schmucks.
No way. No. I was very happy to be there. I think for me, that was true at that time. The only songwriting partnership that I'd ever had that worked out was the one that Justin and I had in Semi Precious Weapons. Every other time I had tried to do it, I just felt like, man, I guess I just don't know how to do this.
Right.
And so part of the impetus for me of accepting that invitation was, even if I'm uncomfortable and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, this will be good for me, because the only way that I'm gonna ever be able to get better at it is if I try. I was very grateful to have that opportunity. So thank you,
you're welcome.
Very much for giving me a chance. Since then, I have repeated the process a number of times, and I've found a few folks in town that I do write well with. And then I'm also just kind of trying all the time writing with different folks. And this latest record that I've done was really important to me because I felt like the last record was sort of like, okay, I got the door cracked open to where I could see through to the other side. Now it's time to just pull that door all the way back and just walk through tall and proud. And so I wanted to bring in other people from the community, but then also just all kinds of folks, and try to create a piece of art that was true to who I am, that was supportive of my community, but that also was a model of intersectionality, because I feel like that's really the way forward at this point. And artists, we have such a valuable platform to model who plays in our band, who we co-bill with, who we write with, who we work with and record with, and all those kind of things. So I really wanted to be just pulling in women and trans people and folks from all walks of life and older people and young people. And I was able to accomplish that and write a record that really hit home for me in that way as well. Yeah. Because the important thing is, to me, is it's like when you're doing something like that, it can't just be an exercise in let me try to show you how many different kinds of people I am friends with or whatever.
You have integrity. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort.
Yeah.
Choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. Brene Brown. I'm loving this. I read her.
Good.
I feel like such an idiot for not finding her until recently. These are words now that just get thrown around. Inclusivity, inclusive, right?
Yeah.
diversity.
Yeah.
We're at this point where we throw these words around. Mental health. My show is about getting to know the artists, getting to know creatives, but also peeling it back a little. Yeah. And so that we can say, I'm not alone. You know, Aaron Lee Tasjan is wading the waters and figuring himself out, and that there's a lot of hatred in the world and that you don't want to be a part of spreading it. You want to bring people together.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about you. I feel better about myself, and I have a little bit more hope in the world because of all of that. And I really appreciate that.
I think like the intention is everything. I have felt extraordinarily fortunate to be invited into spaces where traditionally people who look like I do haven't always done the right thing. And when I get to co-write with an artist like Yola, who to me is the epitome of musical excellence, she can do anything and everything as well or better than anyone I've ever seen. And for her to invite me into her space to be creative with her, that's such a tremendous gift and an opportunity for me to really reflect on why traditionally folks like me who've been in those spaces have caused harm. And what are the ways that I can affect change moving forward? I can really do my due diligence to see her, to understand where she's coming from and what's important to her about what we're doing, and to be in service to that. There's no room for bullshit in that. Like whatever ego or whatever that you may have, you got to let go of all of that, because you can't survive, you know, in a space like that if you're not coming to it with the right intention. I value my friendship with her immensely, but the opportunity to be creative with her is something that I hope it goes on forever, because it's just always an opportunity for me to really consider who I am and how I can use that to help lift up somebody else. Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about Nashville, the music community in Nashville. I really see that happen. I mean, we just all did the Grace Bowers event there at the Basement East for the Covenant School shooting benefit.
Yeah. She's 17 now.
Yeah.
You know?
God.
And, you know, we've become friends.
Yeah. I saw that you guys were recording.
We wrote a song together, recorded.
Cool.
And
so cool.
This community, as you were saying, is such a special opportunity to continue to be more of a community.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
You summed it up perfectly.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Does anything piss you off?
Yes.
I mean, you seem so even keeled. Like I'm trying my hardest to let go. I'm trying my hardest to let things be. Like my wife and I are so uptight. A lot of people I know that are with their partner, one's chill, man, and the other one's, and we're both like two people that are out of our minds, and it's hard. You know what I mean? Hey, do you think you're being? Hey, I know. And we're just yelling at each other. You know. So I'm like, how do I be that chill person? Does anything really piss you off?
Oh yeah, tons of stuff.
What angers you? What pisses you off? By the way, this is the question segment. I'm out of order with my questions. Normally, the first question is different, but I can't take this anymore.
I'll tell you what pisses me off lately is feeling like I have extraordinarily talented, very hardworking friends who are regularly saying that they're struggling very hard to make a living, doing something that is clearly not only their passion in life, but their gift. It upsets me that we live in a system in which words like normal are weaponized against anybody who is doing something that is perhaps a little less conventional. I think, if anything, we should be valuing that kind of thinking and using it as examples of something to aspire to, because it takes not only a wise, studied mind to move in that direction, but also takes a big heart and a brave soul to step up and do something that is a little different. And it's really through our differences that we see how much we have in common. Until we have the bravery to express those, it's not tangible. You can't reach out and touch it quite yet. It's not just that I feel like musicians are having a hard time and being treated unfairly. It's that I know that we need this. We need this music. We need these records. We need these performances. We need these singers. We need these songs. We need these folks being able to model individual thinking that is not coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of knowing yourself and being honest with yourself and admitting your faults as much as celebrating the things that are easy for people to get behind. It's also about sharing the hard truths of who we are as human beings, because we need these stories. When I am encountering almost at every turn these incredible artists saying the music industry that I'm a part of is telling me that I'm a failure, or I'm trying to figure out how to get on food stamps. And these are all very real things that our peers are facing, myself included at times. And it does anger me because I feel like people want to believe things about the systems that are in place for some reason, a false sense of patriotism maybe sometimes, a false sense of self. The sort of reality of trying to overcome that feels like a massive uphill climb these days. And that does piss me off because, like I said, we need this stuff.
Yeah. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? My friends, being happy. I was just texting with my friend Yola the other night. She was in New York for the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and having a great time and feeling really happy. And I just sent her a text. I was just reflecting on the joy that we can bring each other just sometimes by sharing a little moment. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just a little moment of something that happened in our day that brought us closer to who we are.
Doesn't that get overlooked all the time?
All the time.
That is so huge.
Yeah.
You share those little moments, and then all of a sudden, that little kernel just opens up, and it's a star.
Yeah.
And it's the brightness that shines through that actually makes your day and the person that you're sharing with.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I said to her, I want to let you know, it makes me really happy when you're happy.
That's great. What fascinates you? Like, wow. Universal side for fascination is wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that fascinate me these days. I've been a longtime advocate of we're not alone in the universe, so the aliens thing has been very exciting for me.
We just wrote a song yesterday. We had a co-write.
Yeah.
And this young lady, she said, I know this sounds weird, but can we write a song about aliens?
Yes.
And we said, yeah. We wrote a song called Me and E.T. Going Honky Tonkin'.
Oh, I love it.
Me and E.T. going honky tonkin'. Yeah, I mean, and it was clever. It worked out. We were like, this is cool.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. A lot of people are very fascinated by this now. I mean, why not? Come on.
I think it's an interesting time. May you live in interesting times. We certainly do.
Oh, exactly. Right. And why should we have all the sadness?
Yeah.
Bring them all in. Come on, aliens. Come on. You like racism? We got plenty of racism, right? You hungry? We got tons of famine here. You want sadness? We got it all. You want happy? Man, we got some. No, we have a lot to be grateful, a lot to be happy for. If you could fix one thing, like you had a magic wand, boom, fixed, done. I got this, says Aaron Lee Tasjan. Like a superhero superpower.
That's such an interesting question. I feel like one of the most overarching problems that exists in our world today is the issue of wealth disparity. I feel like it just causes a lot of stress and unnecessary anguish for people in their life that affects them physically, that causes disease, that causes mental health issues and emotional health issues. And so if we could live in a more equitable world, I guess I mean that just in every way that you can, that's what I would go for.
Right on. I like it. Now the most important one of all. Toilet paper, over or under?
I think over.
Yes, correct. Ding, ding. Aaron Lee Tasjan, where can we find you? Tell us just so the socials are all intact, please.
Absolutely.
Commercialize yourself.
Yes. Facebook.com/The Real Aaron Lee Tasjan. I had to do that because of how many people on there make fake accounts pretending to be you, even though I'm by no means a famous person.
Right. Well, you're somewhat famous. You're more famous than not. I'll put it that way. How about that? That's your new T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tasjan, more famous than not.
That's funny.
I love you, buddy. Please like, share, and subscribe. Our YouTube page is at Just Keep Talking Podcast. Instagram is at The Just Keep Talking Podcast. We have such a wonderful community here in Nashville. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, we are not alone out there. So don't forget to use your turn signal.